Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back. Insert words here.
Welcome back to the podcast. We are Jesse and Jeremiah. I'm Jeremiah.
Hey, that makes me Jesse.
And we're glad you joined us.
It's true. Hey, this is episode 5. Episode 5.
Episode 5, yeah.
And if all of you were paying attention to the Spotifys, the Anchors, and or the YouTubes, you saw that we dropped a special. A bonus episode.
We did drop a bonus episode.
Episode 4.5.
Yep.
Disney, date nights, and other things. Seems to be our jam. Hey, tell you what, let me, I don't think I'm the host of this by any means.
I hope not, because I'm the one getting paid for it.
For sure. Like all of the money is going to Jeremiah. There were two things. We like looking back, I do the editing, and so I listen to all of this stuff. And so as I listen to the things that we talk about, we start a lot of things. My fiance asked me, she was like, what'd you think of the episode? And I was like, honestly, it was probably, in my personal opinion, not my favorite. The last one, episode 4?
Yeah, episode 4, because we started so many different things, but we didn't finish maybe one of them, maybe.
I don't know.
And it wasn't an editing trick, by the way. That was just him and I rambling and then seeing so many different detours. That's what we took.
It's true. And so my wife actually listened to all of them. It's funny because we even mentioned in the last one, I was like, you said that your fiance hasn't listened to any. And I was like, I don't think my wife has listened to any. And then last night she was like, so I listened to all your podcasts. And I was like, oh. Now I'm a liar.
No, we weren't at the time.
It's true.
And has she listened to 4.5? Because
I don't think she has listened to that one yet.
We're still not lying.
We dropped that this morning. This morning to when we're recording this, because this is going to show up in 4 days, however that works. In any case.
In the future.
2 things, not the regular 2 things, not the I love you and you're going to die. That's later.
We looked at the podcast and we said, hey, there are 2 things we need to make sure we cover in more detail.
And really, really cover them. The first one is the reason that we have level 5. Like we talked about intimacy, we talked about the different levels, we talked about what level 5 meant, but we didn't talk about why we're level 5, like where that's coming from. And then secondly, we didn't talk about why I think Last Jedi is awesome and why you hate it. Like we mention it, we cover like a couple of things, but I feel like I did not get to make my case. I don't know that you made your case. I still
don't think I need to. The internet would agree with me.
We can get into that. So 2 things I want to cover today is why we're called level 5 and what's wrong/right with The Last Jedi.
Let's podcast about it.
And we're back.
Hey, so let's go with the first thought you had.
Okay, level 5.
Why are we called level 5?
Why are we? If you had to answer that question, what would you say?
Well, it stems from this idea of there's 5 levels of intimacy. There's 3, there's 4, there's 20. Everyone has different things, but we went with 5.
5.
Am I just rehashing the last episode?
A little bit. We can do that, but no nobody wants to hear that.
We took the idea from level 5 because we went over those 5 ways of intimacy, and we covered it with our youth. We worked with junior hires and high schoolers. At the time, I think it was a junior hire.
It was a junior. Yes, that was. It was. Yep, she was junior high.
She was in junior high. It was a female. And so we covered the 5 levels of intimacy, and Jesse offhandedly said,
"Well, she was still stuck on the idea of intimacy and sex being linked together."
Yeah, well, I was going to say you offhandedly said we've been to level, like Jeremiah and I have been to level 5,
right?
And she fell out of her chair. Like not like in a joking way. Like she legitimately fell out of her chair, trying to like you're a youth pastor, he's a youth worker. You're both dudes. What?
How does that? No, it can't be. It can't be, right? She was visibly
shooketh.
Just shooketh. She doth be shooketh. Which was then funny in its own right, because then we laughed.
Yeah, and because of that, you and I've had a running joke that we've gone to level 5.
Yeah, anytime that we're in front of the group and something happens and we say something, we're on the same page or we understand something together, it's like, we're level 5.
Especially when no one else is on that page. That's when it's even better, because we can be, it's a level 5 thing you want to understand.
It's a level 5 thing. And the majority of the time, nobody has any idea what we're talking about. Like the majority of the time, especially if we're talking about like movie references, TV references, music references. Yeah, people don't. We're older.
We are older, and I think we covered that in the last episode a little bit, having like teachers and stuff that reference things that we could recognize.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, we're older, and we work with a younger crowd. We work with junior hires, and we do our best to stay hip to the hops. It doesn't always work.
It does not.
I was talking to my fiance about this the other day, and she was like, just trying to struggle with like, how does she connect with the kids? And I was like, you got to put effort into it. I read books that kids read. Not necessarily because I think they're enjoyable, but because I know the kids read them.
Right.
When the Hunger Games series came out, I was like, oh, no idea what this is about, but everyone's reading it. I will read the book just to understand it. I ended up enjoying the book, but
I had the same thought with Twilight. When Twilight was out, that I should read these books because so many of the youth are. And then I didn't because I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But I like the idea of doing that. I just was unwilling to do it there. I've not seen any of the Twilight movies. I haven't read any of the books. Same with Harry Potter. I have not. I haven't read any of the books. I haven't seen any of the movies. I don't know. But for me, like as far as relating to the youth, I lean in super hard to the fact that I have no idea what's going on. And for whatever reason, it works.
They do appreciate that. They think it's hilarious that you don't know anything.
It's great. I really enjoy it.
Whereas I'm somehow the oldest person in the room at all times.
Always.
Somehow it's the weirdest phenomenon in my life.
I don't even remember when I started that.
Oh.
It must have been a while ago. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. But as a result of that, I lean into the understanding the kids more. And I'm also a giant nerd, so nerddom is becoming a popular thing these days. Marvel's out there. DC, for those that still watch the DCEU or the DC universe.
People still have high hopes. There's high hopes.
We do. We do keep hoping that it's going to get better. But I just heard that Zack Snyder is going to possibly helm some more movies for them.
Was it continuing the Snyderverse?
It is continuing the Snyderverse, and I lost a little hope.
Really?
Yeah.
I wanted to see where that story was going to finish. After watching the Snyder Cut, I was excited to see that, whatever they call it, the story then where Superman is bad, and whatever, because there's like a following like a comic.
Yeah, it's the Injustice storyline.
Okay. I would love to see where that goes, how that plays out. But
I think it'd be interesting to play it out, but I've looked back in Zack Snyder's career. I can't think of any movie that I'm like, oh my goodness, this was amazing.
300?
That wasn't Zack Snyder, was it? Did he do 300?
I think so.
Okay, then that might have been the first one he did, and then everything else feels like 300 after that.
It's true. But the thing that I love about Zack Snyder, and I remember watching this in some video somewhere, that his ability to frame up almost every scene in a movie that looks like a comic book. Like as you look through it, it looks it's like a live action comic book.
And that's a cool feature.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Hulk? Like, I think it was Ang Lee's? Yeah, Ang Lee's Hulk. And that was cut in a way and edited in a way to look like a comic book. Like the Hulk went through the comic book pages and stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and so I thought it was a really cool concept, but to do a whole universe based off that would have been weird.
That's true.
But it was fun for the one time, and
sure.
I like bad movies because I enjoyed Ang Lee's Hulk, which no one else on planet Earth will admit to.
I don't remember it enough to say either way.
I mean,
did he grow? Did he get bigger?
He got bigger, which he's supposed to.
As he gets angrier, or as he gets injured?
As he gets angrier, he gets bigger, which is the whole shtick of the Hulk. He gets angrier, he gets bigger, he gets angrier, he gets bigger. And there he gets super powerful as a result. All
right.
Yeah. So
I know very little.
That's been the comic book moment with Jeremiah Holden. We're glad you're here.
Welcome back. Hey, so going back to level 5 then.
That was the weirdest transition. I'm sorry.
We're not even going to transition. That's just going to stay going straight through. Like it's all one. This has all been one thought since that last musical interlude all the way to here. It's been one long continuous thought.
You're going to have to continue on because my brain is...
That's fine. Yeah. Level 5. So level 5, we're level 5 because we believe that we have reached this level of intimacy, of being the 5th level, the highest level, where you actually know the other person and you're known by the other person. And so that's where we are. And so because we've then had this ongoing joke since that series, we've said that we're level 5. When it came time to making this podcast, I think we tossed around a couple different ideas. But as soon as one of us mentioned level 5, we're like, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
There it
It's what we are. It's where we've been.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think when it comes to being on the 5th level of intimacy that is a constant thing? Right? I was thinking about it ever since we had our episode last time. Like a lot of that stuff that happens in the 5th level has to do with a lot of fears and mistakes. Like you're really not afraid to kind of share yourself. But then as I was thinking about it, we don't do that a lot. Like it's been a while since we've had one of those deep conversations. And so I was just curious what you thought. I have a thought, but I was just curious what thought you had. Can you fluctuate between the levels with one person, or is it just a matter of a level not being utilized? Does that make sense?
I think it does make sense. And my initial thought is you're once in level 5, you're in level 5 unless you stop talking to that person for a while, in which case you kind of like regress back down the levels.
Okay.
It was my initial thought, right?
You cut things off.
Yeah. And that just, we kind of talked about it last time where it's like you don't see someone for a while and then do you talk to them? Where are you? Other things,
Right.
You kind of have to rebuild that relationship a little bit. Maybe you don't go back down to level 1. Maybe you're in level like 3.5.
It'd be really weird to go back to level 1.
Hey,
Sunny, huh?
Yep.
What was your name again? That's weird.
But yeah, I don't think you go all the way back down. I think that it's kind of like unlocking level 5, where if you and I wanted to, if we wanted to have an intimate conversation, we could do it, and neither one of us would feel weird about it.
For sure.
If you were to broach like a serious subject, you're like, hey, I got to bare my soul with you for a second. I wouldn't be like, you need to earn that again.
Right. Yeah. And so that was my thought. In that, like, just because we've been to level 5, I think when I say it that way, it's definitely why that student felt that way.
Yes.
We made it all the way to level 5.
Cha-ching. In my mind,
someone got paid.
In my mind, that was like you completed the level and there's like a celebration. Yeah, exactly. And then what came out was cha-ching. I'm not a voice actor.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
To know. I'll scratch that off of your list of things to do. But I think that if you and I needed to have a heart-to-heart, either that if I was struggling with something, I needed somebody to talk to, you were like that we could do it. In fact, this is just coming to mind when my sister got into a really bad car accident. I was in Hawaii, so she had, I think it had happened like the week before. It was pretty fresh.
I think it was the week before, but yeah, because I think you guys went not knowing what was going to happen.
Right. And,
I think you were considering transferring your tickets to Washington.
Yeah, because we weren't sure if it was going to happen. And I remember I called you, and I just needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't have. I mean, I could talk to my wife. I'm not saying that I can't talk to her, but sometimes having somebody outside of that, because she's going through the same things I am.
Yeah.
So having somebody separate, and then you and I had things to talk about as far as I don't know how to run youth group like this. Like I don't know how to do the things I'm supposed to be doing. I need help, and I knew that I could come to you. It wasn't like, hey, I got to talk to you about something that might be awkward, but like I knew that I could. I just knew that I could come talk to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Once again, level 5 in effect.
Level 5. There it is. So that's why we are level 5. This is why the level 5 podcast, because the hope then is
the hope is.
It reminded me of a skit of Tower of Babel. Well, all of a sudden you just start jibber jabbering. That there are going to be things that you and I disagree on. We're going to get into this in a second, that it is one of them is going to be The Last Jedi. But there are other things, such as I think when it comes to like politics and even like social services and even the church, like how things should be or what we think they are, that you and I can have a conversation about that and not hate the other for it.
Yeah. I mean, we've learned that you're a person and you have thoughts and feelings, and
we have learned that I'm a person.
And I don't always agree with them, but ultimately you're made in God's image, and I need to love you. Yeah.
I like the way that this has even been framed up is that like I'm always wrong, and so Jeremiah is learning how to put up with me.
Well, I'm just the one to give the example. You could say the exact same thing about me.
Jeremiah is always right. In fact, most of the times when I'm teaching, I say something that seems a little bit like, am I right? And I look over to Jeremiah. He's nodding. All right, I think I am right. Or I look over and he's flipping through his Bible like, And I'm like, ooh, maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's not always. Sometimes I'm just trying to think of an example. Like if I go into small groups and I'm like, okay, the boys might bring up this up. And I'm like, okay, I've got a verse. I can, point them to the Bible. It's not just you or I saying it.
Right, for sure. But I will oftentimes, if there's a question and I don't have time to answer it from the front, I will almost always say, ask Jeremiah afterwards.
Yes,
he would love to answer all your questions.
Oh, I would, because I just enjoy having those conversations with kids.
It's the best.
But I can also think there's other people that have been in the room that, because they're not at that level with you, they give that stern look, and you're just like, you almost shrink down. Right. And I'm speaking from experience.
Same.
There are some people that I'm like, oh.
When I'm preaching at big church, especially when I'm preaching, when I'm eating peaches and preaching at big church. I don't eat peaches while I'm there. But when I'm preaching, I'm making eye contact, and so I'm looking around and I'm scanning, the congregation, making eye contact, making things personal and connected. But there's a couple spots that I skip.
You're like, and the next person.
And not even really. Okay, I'm going to tell one story. There was a time. And what I was saying is that I don't skip everyone just because they make me feel uncomfortable, but just because I know that if I make eye contact with them and they make any kind of face, I'm going to think immediately that I'm doing something wrong. Case in point, I was leading communion one time, and I was talking about, because it's in 1 Corinthians, especially the big passage of it. Paul is talking to the church in Corinth, saying, "Hey, this is how you need to be doing communion. It's how it was taught to me. I'm teaching it to you." And I was saying these things, and I look across, and the worship pastor's wife was making eye contact with me. She was looking at me, and I looked at her, and she just did this. She just nodded very slowly.
That's not a nod. That's a head shake.
She shook her head. She nodded sideways. She shook her head, and I just froze, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am not right at all in this." And so I just stopped, and I was like, "So, anyways, take out the bread," and I just skipped ahead because I thought I've missed something, and I just need to just move on. I just need to get on with it and move on. And I mentioned it to the worship pastor, and he just started laughing. He was like, "Oh man, no. She was shaking her head because you were having audio issues. There was something wrong with the speaker and the mic, and it had been happening all day. And she was so frustrated that they couldn't get it figured out. And so she's like, I can't believe it's happening again. And she's shaking her head. It had nothing to do with me whatsoever. But I thought it was me. I thought that she had just had enough. And so now I had to be very
heresy,
careful,
sir. And you need to not do that again.
For sure. And I apologize.
Good.
In any case.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh, what was I saying that? Oh, just looking around, just making eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact, and
yeah,
you can feel small at times, and you can change up what you're going to say based off of the faces in the room.
Yeah. Which comes in handy, especially when you're standing on the stage and you look around and you see that nobody's paying attention, or that everyone just has this confused look on your face. It's like, I might need to backtrack a little bit and cover something again.
One of the things that I know that we were going to talk about this, and we want to get to The Last Jedi, but for me, it's the clock. If I look around the room when I'm talking, like speaking, like preaching or whatever, and I see the clock, my brain immediately starts doing all the calculations. Like, all right, you got 5 minutes to wrap this up. You need to condense 4 pages down into 5 minutes or whatever it is, right? And so I can't look at a clock. You don't care.
Yeah.
You just like, I have a point. I have pages I have to go through. I'm going to say it all. And I'm just like, oh, no, I got to be respectful of time.
Depending on how far I go, I will cut things out, or depending on how many questions there are, or if it seems like everyone's just so distracted that it just doesn't matter what I say. And I'm like, and I think that's it. Let's go ahead and go to your small groups, and let's do something you'll pay attention to. I thought you were saying
they do not.
No. I thought you were saying that the clock doesn't bother me. And I was like, no, it doesn't, because I look at the clock, because I get more distracted if there's not a clock. Like right now, there's not a clock in the youth room, and I'll be like, what time is it? And I'm like, oh, I can't see.
We both looked up to where the clock used to be.
Because it used to be right over here. My right, your left.
I point it for the youth, or for the watchers at home.
What's great is on the video, like we're both doing it at the same time. Just right there. So yeah. There it is.
That's level 5.
Oh, yeah, I think I covered it. That we can disagree.
Yeah, we can disagree. We can move through it, and we continue to love each other.
Yeah,
through it.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I think that's something that we're hoping to be able to example and show other people that, hey, look, we can disagree on things, and we still love each other at the end of the day. That it's not going to dictate the rest of our future. We're like, oh man, sorry, that's just we can't be friends anymore. And I think that's anti-Jesus. I don't think that. I mean, a lot of people disagreed with Jesus, and he continued to love them. I think he's a good example.
would you say that Jesus continued to love Judas even though he betrayed him?
Yeah. I think had Judas stuck around, right now, obviously this is going beyond like God's plan and like it was, but I think if Judas had stuck around, I think that Jesus would have treated him very similarly to the way that he treated Peter when Peter was like, Peter was so ashamed, right, that he had denied Jesus, and Jesus totally built him back up and brought him back into the fold. And I believe that Jesus would have done the same for Judas.
Yeah, if Judas didn't choose to commit suicide, then Jesus would have said, hey, I do forgive you. Like, we can move past this, so to speak.
Totally.
I like that.
I think
I would agree too. But.
Yeah, that Jesus said, he said, I came to seek and to save the lost. Like I didn't come for the people that have it all together. And Judas would be one of those guys that did not have it all together. He thought he knew what he wanted, right? And he thought that even hitching to Jesus would help him get the things that he wanted. He realized it wasn't going to happen, which is then I think why he sailed off to go, betray him and get things that he thought he wanted. And in that moment, realizing that all of that was a lie, all of that was a sham, and being filled with so much guilt and remorse, and then hanging himself. But had he just, this feels weird to say it this way, had he just waited 3 more days,
just a weekend,
just waited the weekend, like, and you know what? Here we go. Case in point. If things ever get so bad that you just feel like there's just no way things are going to get better, just give it a couple days. Give it 3 days. There it is. Give it 3 days, and then readdress your problems.
I think there's a meme out there about, I think it's Gideon who has to, like, God says, go take a nap and here's some food. Is that Gideon that does that too?
Doesn't Gideon bring the God keeps whittling down his army?
Is that, okay. Or maybe it's, I don't remember. There's someone, I remember there's a prophet in the Bible that God's just like, go take a nap, eat some food, and then
Elijah.
Elijah, is it Elijah?
Yep.
Okay. He's like, go take a nap, here's some food, and then he feels better after.
Yeah.
It's like this.
It's amazing.
Sometimes all you need is a good nap and some food.
Good nap. Maybe a cry.
Maybe
good nap. Good cry. Some food. You'll be good to go.
Yeah.
There it is. Life lessons with Jeremiah and Jesse. Things get too bad. Take a nap. Eat some food. Give it the weekend. We could have ended it right there.
No, we can't. We cannot.
We can't, because we have to talk about
The Last
Jedi.
For those of you that aren't in the know somehow, we are talking about Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
It's true.
Directed by Rian Johnson.
Written and directed by.
Absolutely. I didn't want to discredit the man, but...
You didn't want to discredit him.
Oh, he owns that.
I watched it this afternoon, actually.
I saw, and I'm so glad you posted things on Instagram because it reminded me of things that I disliked even more.
And I purposefully posted that one because I knew how much you hated Mary Poppins. And the other one that I wanted to post was the one that we'll get into in a second. But it's the one, and it cut off the words at the bottom, but it was Luke saying, this isn't going to go the way you want.
Yeah.
Or the way you think, or something like that. Anyways. How do we begin? There's so much here.
So let's start with the easy thing. Defend yourself.
Defend myself. I don't see. I think that you have to defend yourself because I am accepting the movie as it was created and put in line with the rest of the Star Wars movies, and I'm like, great.
No.
So there you go. So that's you're the one that's saying, you've messed up. I don't think they have.
So let's just start with the easy one. They've introduced gas into this galaxy far, far away. Up until that episode, we never knew about ships needing gas to get to places. And all of a sudden, Rian Johnson's like, oh, they're going to run out of fuel. They can't do hyper jumps as a result. So that's step one. Step two, let's go into the fact that they can now track people through hyperspace, which is ridiculous, so much so that they had to make a reason for it in Rogue One. They had to retcon, that's the word they use.
I was like, retrofit? That doesn't work either.
Retroactive continuity.
There it is.
Retcon. They had to retcon that into Rogue One so that it would make sense at that point in time.
Okay.
There's Mary Poppins.
I will give you that.
And here's my issue with Leia. Leia to me was a fantastic female character who forsook the Force, didn't want to follow that path, and she became a general and the leader of a mover and shaker in the political field of the new republic that's happening.
Right.
If you read like the books, like the Aftermath books and stuff like that, it discusses how they're trying to build up the new republic and Leia's role in that entire thing. So I really enjoyed that aspect of things.
Okay, and that is good. Let me just cut it. Let me just cut it a little bit.
And didn't J.J. Abrams say that Leia didn't, or decided to become not a Jedi, but become a political figure? I think he said that
Probably.
and like after episode 7, and then Ryan Johnson did Ryan Johnson.
So okay, so we're gonna have to incorporate a lot of different episodes here. Well, maybe just of the sequel trilogy.
To. Yeah,
I really loved episode 7, but as I watched it more, the reason why I loved it so much is because it was essentially A New Hope. It just, and so the majority of the movie was fan service. I think kids who had never seen Star Wars before, they watched it and they really liked it because they didn't have any of that other stuff. Anybody who had watched the previous original trilogy loved it because it was just so familiar, and so they love that. Which
familiar but different.
Familiar but different, and same. Like I one of the reasons why I love all of the Star Wars movies is because of nostalgia. I would say nostalgia plays a huge role in it, right? Like, I mean, anytime I watch anything Star Wars, I'm immediately transported back to laying on my grandma's floor watching the VHS tapes of the original trilogy. And
I wore those out as a kid. I loved them. I loved like watching them, and then they hit the end and they just rerun for you and you hit play again. Yeah,
man, and that's all I wanted to do. Anytime I went and visited my grandma, that was it, and because that was the place where those were mostly, and I watched them all the time, and so I love it. So I'm automatically transported back, right? This little kid, all the smells come back. Like there's just something about it. And so any kind of Star Wars is going to do that, which is why, because we saw Last Jedi in the theater together. You had already seen it, and it was my first time seeing it. And
I'm bad. If you tell me you're going to watch a movie with me, you better watch it the day it comes out, because otherwise I will go see it.
But I remember you and it was Jesselyn were a little bit teasing me because I was grinning ear to ear the whole movie. Like the whole movie. I was a little kid again. I just loved it. I loved it. So episode 7, I really liked because of that. Now,
Canto Bite, that whole...
Remind me.
That's the whole thing where they have to go off and go to the casino planet.
Yes. Okay, so we're back on 8.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
I don't... Okay. So I also need to say, there are a lot of things that I don't like about it. Like there are a lot of things that don't make sense, even from a story perspective. There are a lot of issues. But all those stem back to 7. And because it was, how do we play into the nostalgia factor? How do we create stories around these people that are really kind of irrelevant now? We're bringing back Lando Calrissian and Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, like all of those things that I don't think they.
But Lando didn't come until 9. But
Lando was in this one. No, sorry, I started watching The Last Skywalker or Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
also,
I was like, no, he wasn't.
That's in my brain. Also, you're right. He wasn't in this one. Yeah. But I think they should have just left it. I liked that Han Solo was in episode 7 and that he died. I don't like that he died. I
have no problem that he died. I think there are some things that they were doing to move forward. They said, hey, let's take the old one and let's bridge the two together, which is what 7 did really well. Now, it was a little bit too much like A New Hope. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I think that they were moving things forward. I think Ryan said, instead of honoring the past and moving forward, he said, kill the past. And I'm going to do my own thing.
It's true, because Kylo Ren even says it a number of times. You have to let the past die. And I was okay with that. I think
that's because you don't like to honor your parents. If we were in like a Mulan culture,
as we are.
Yeah. You would not have a cricket or a dragon to protect the family.
No.
I'm making my best to make this.
I think I loved that. I loved the idea. I think that Luke should have disappeared throughout the beginning of it. Like I would have changed that. But all of 8 was an effort to change it, to take it into a new direction so that we can get these different stories with Rose and with Finn that we can see.
You say that, but they could have killed Leia and they decided to let her live.
And I will admit to you, they should have let her die right there.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been great.
I think slowly killing off the main 3 throughout the 3 movies would have been really good. And I realized that because Carrie Ann Fisher had just like actually died in real life.
Right.
Like there was some, what are we going to do? It's like, you got to let her go. It sounds bad,
You got to let her go.
but I think you could have done a lot with Kylo Ren as he killed his mother and then had to deal with the guilt of that.
For sure. And so I feel like we could have done a multiverse off of episode 8 because I did like 8. There are parts I don't like about it. A lot of it was just for no reason. You could, but at the same time, right? Because you watch it and you go the whole Cantabite thing, like all of that stuff it didn't matter. None of it mattered.
It does not matter.
But then you don't have a movie. Then you have a 30-minute movie because they didn't need to do any of that stuff.
Or
if they would have just waited,
thing that matters.
Agreed. But if you're trying to kill the past,
And this,
so that you can move forward.
You want to honor the past and move forward, not kill.
Episode 7, honor. So much honor in episode 7.
And 8 could have been a bridge between honor and to move past. It could have been that little go-between.
It's true. It could have been.
It could have been the Empire, and it wasn't Empire Strikes Back. It was episode 8.
It was. You're right. But I'm okay with that. I watched it again this afternoon, knowing all of your objections. I loved it. I love it. Some of the stuff is corny, but also it's written, really for kids. It's a kid. If I showed it to my boys and they loved it. They loved it. They were totally enthralled with it.
But I don't think that's what Ryan was going for. I don't think he was going for a kid thing.
Well, I don't know. I liked it. I'm a kid.
And as I said before, it's still Star Wars to me.
Mm-hmm.
I will honor it as Star Wars. I will still watch it because it is Star Wars.
If right now we stopped doing this podcast to go watch episode 7 or episode 8, would you do it?
Yeah, I would do it. Yeah, I'm not going to not watch something because it's Star Wars. I do the same thing with Marvel movies or bad X-Men movies. I watch the X-Men movies because they're X-Men and I love X-Men.
Yeah.
Not all of them are great. There are definitely some problems with that whole franchise that we're not going to talk about because there's too much time, and I would show my full nerd.
And I don't know enough about that, so you would just go, and that would be, I would sit here and watch that. But
I owned X2 on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray, and now digital. I own in all 4 mediums right there. I never had on Laserdisc.
Okay.
If they ever did that one in Laserdisc, but that'd be the only medium I haven't owned it in.
Interesting.
I love
X-Men
X2.
too.
X2 is fantastic.
Yeah.
The opening scene with Nightcrawler.
He was the greatest.
Oh, it was such a great way to open a movie. Just be like, and he's going to go through and just destroy everyone if he wants to.
He was great.
Talk about nostalgia.
I loved the issues between Rey and Kylo Ren. I thought watching them trying to work all that out. I liked how Kylo Ren turned on Snoke.
That scene was really cool. The whole where he just moved the lightsaber and then turned it on.
That was good.
I think that was a cool scene. It sucks that they set up Snoke as this emperor-like figure.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do anything with that. But once again, it's a cool way to say it's not going to go the way you think it is.
Right. And that happened a lot. Almost everything that happens in the movie kind of echoes that. Because it was in the trailer that you hear Luke say that this isn't going to go the way you think. And almost nothing happens or almost everything happens that way where you don't. I don't know how to say that. That's too many double negatives.
Things don't go the way you think they will.
Right. It is not a perfect story by any means. But man, so enjoyable. And as I watched it, there are definitely things that I picked out and I was like, oh, that's dumb. And that doesn't make any sense. And why would you do that? But is it as part of this world that is supposed to be make-believe, that's supposed to be science fiction or fantasy, right? It's supposed to be far-fetched. It's supposed to not really make the most sense. It's supposed to transport you to this place where you're just like, all right, that was a fun ride. And Mark Hamill looked like a BG.
I liked Luke Skywalker's whole walkout thing where he wasn't really there. He's force ghosting himself, so to speak. Force projection, maybe?
Yeah, because he wouldn't have been a force ghost yet.
He was force projecting himself onto that planet crate and then did the whole, with his shoulder.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
I thought it was good. And even watching it, knowing that he's force projecting, because there's a scene where it shows Kylo sweep the salt, right, and you see the red, and then you see Luke do the same thing, but none of the salt moves, and so it's like,
and that's something you don't pick up on the first
tiny
watch.
Little things, yeah, for sure. Because the first time you watch it, you're like, they're fighting.
Yeah.
I remember even thinking the first time, I was like, he stopped to do his hair? That's so weird. Why did he do that?
He looks much younger for some reason. That's weird. What's going on?
yeah. And how did he get there? Anyway, they're like I just didn't think. I'm just like, wow, he did a lot.
I remember having all the same thoughts, and I was like, I'm gonna go with it. Let's figure this out.
Okay, we're there now. Little thing, I liked that fight. It would have been cool to see them do an actual fight together, and not just a projected one. But I loved the Yoda showing up. That was really great, especially like because he's having this heart. You know what? I wrote down. Oh, I did. I wrote down a quote because I just thought this was it was so good. Now I'm not trying to like allegorize. How you say that? I'm not trying to turn Star Wars into an allegory.
But we talked about this last time, where the Gospel's in.
The Gospel's in a lot of stories.
So if you look for it, you can find it. Now, we're not saying it's a direct parallel. We're not trying to make the Force the Holy Ghost or anything like that. Holy Spirit, I guess we want to make it modernized.
Yeah. He was talking about it was after they had burned the tree because like Luke was going to get rid of it, and then he kind of stopped because he was like, I can't. This is too precious. And then Yoda calls down lightning. I guess which you can do as a Force ghost. But he burns down. That look, he burns down the tree or whatever, and then as Luke is laying there, and he's like saying, he failed Ben, and then Yoda says, but we can't fail Rey, and so he's like, Luke's kind of talking about like this is hard, and Yoda says, now this is obviously in Yoda speak, so it's a little bit more difficult to but he says, we are what they grow beyond, right? This whole idea that like. We're only like stepping stones. Like those that we train, those who are under us are going, like they should take what we've done and go more. They should go further. They should go higher. And so whether that's like parenting, whether that's ministry, whether that's like anybody that you are in charge over the top of, the goal I feel like is so profound that you should hope that they do more, that they do better, that they take what you've taught them and just, and take it to the next level.
I remember,
not level 6, but
a different type of leveling system there. I remember hearing about Jonathan Edwards and just the number of lives that he has touched, and like the people that are like almost in his family lineage because of his life and how fulfilling he lived his life and how he focused on God and stuff like that. And I don't have all the numbers right now, so I don't want to quote something and people are like, oh, that's not accurate.
All 10 of you who are listening to this, get your fact checkers out.
But he lived a really remarkable life. Well, I'd say he lived a good life, and then as a result, the people that have lived surpassed him because of what he did. I
don't think I know who Jonathan Edwards is.
He's a preacher.
From way back. Like, you're talking like Protestant.
Yeah. Protestant Reformation.
Okay.
Well, not Protestant Reformation, but like this is probably 1700, something like that.
Right. So the guy who's responsible for sinners in the hands of an angry God.
That guy, yeah.
For sure. Okay. Now I know who you're talking about.
Everything that he's done, like, and that his family and stuff like that. Like he has I think it's a few different presidents that have somehow like been from him and stuff like that, or senators and stuff like that.
So that kind of stuff is really great. And that's my hope that my boys will take my life and I'm not saying that I hope my boys take my life.
They can't go Kylo on you.
Unless I can come back and help bring them back to the light side, as what happens in episode 8, which I do not like episode 8. I think episode 8 is my
9?
least. Yep. Sorry. Episode 9. Cause I've already talked about how I like episode 8. Episode 9 is my least favorite, but there are a handful of moments that are just like choice. Like the whole Han Solo and Kylo Ren on the bridge
You're
thing.
a sucker for a father-son moment.
Oh man, I am. Well, really any kind of like redemption or things like that. Like, cause even like Kylo and Rey fighting together, like, right? Kylo and Rey. Like, I love that. I loved Kylo taking on the Ren, the Knights of Ren. Loved that.
That scene with Kylo, like, is running through, and then his Knights of Ren right there, and he goes off. And now I'm also taking the "I Need a Hero" song of people later on top of that. Like, so that's affecting my judgment a little bit, but that scene is fantastic. And in episode 8, there are great scenes, but I come to the conclusion that when you look at it as a whole, it's not as great. Like, the movie isn't very good. Right. You look at them and say, that's really good. I look at episode 9 and say, it's the best they could do with what he was set up with.
Well, so then, I mean, this goes back to like, so Rian Johnson took what J.J. Abrams did in episode 7, was like, nope, we're going to kill all that, we're going to start over. And then when J.J. Abrams took episode 9, he's like, nope, we're going to kill all that, and we're going to start all over, and we're going to try to wrap it all up. And so it just became, like, 7, 8, 9 is just what's happening? Like, I feel like they wasted so much potential. Like, Finn went nowhere. Like I don't know what's going on with Finn. I would love to see them branch off and do a whole new, I know that none of them will do this, but where we get to see Poe and Rey and Finn and even Rose. I liked Rose. I had no problem with Rose, but I'd like to see them do their own, separate from all of this, like their own adventures. I would love to see that.
I would love for episode 9, which is called The Rise of Skywalker, if Rey, like the last like credit scene or like the last scene of it isn't her saying, "My name is Rey Skywalker." What I would have loved is for her to say, "Rise Skywalkers." And it's like a new training group of like Padawans. So like Skywalker is now the name like the Jedi Order.
Okay.
Rather than like just this
Like
name.
I'm taking the name.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what I would have loved because it's the Rise of Skywalker. And in the Skywalker, you are a Skywalker. It's like this Jedi Order concept is what I would have preferred to see. Rather,
Who was the Skywalker that rose? Ben?
no, Rey.
She's not a Skywalker.
But she is because she claims she's Rey Skywalker.
So it's a self-proclaimed Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, because, it's a self. I mean, I'm trying to defend something here that I don't agree with.
Right. No, I get that. Now, again, love it. Like I could watch any Star Wars movie and just sit with my just a huge grin. I love it.
Yeah.
But that one had issues for me.
Oh, the whole Rey and Kylo, they fall in love and they kiss thing. Not a fan of. And I know plenty of girls are like, "Oh, but Kylo, it's so beautiful." And I'm like, he was abusive to her for 2 whole movies.
He tried to kill her.
Several times. And we're just like, okay, they love each other though, so it's okay. Love conquers all.
Yeah, he had that moment on the bridge. He's fine now.
There wasn't enough time for that to happen in Rey's mind though. Like I would hope.
That's true. She doesn't know. She didn't know any of that happened.
But I would hope.
Feel it. She can feel it in the Force. That's not how the Force works.
But the sacred texts.
I was saying something before we got derailed on
We
this.
never get derailed.
No. And I don't even remember what it was because it moved to like me being a sucker for those father-son moments.
Episode 9, Father-Son Moments.
Right. And I said something before that and I don't. I don't know. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, if you're watching it on something that allows you to leave a comment, I don't even know where those are anymore. Oh, you know what? I did want to check. I will say that you are in the majority when it comes to The Last Jedi. We put a poll on. I think it was on it was episode 4.
Yep.
I put a poll on there, and you can only. And I found that you can only get through it if you're listening to this on Spotify on your phone.
Oh, okay. So
it's if you're on your computer, it's not there. You can't.
Interesting.
You don't have the poll option. But I asked the question like, what did you think of The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
And I gave a bunch of options. Loved it. Hated it.
never saw it.
Never saw it, and what's Star Wars? And nobody said never saw it, and nobody said what's Star Wars. And so there was 40% loved it, 60%
40%. Interesting.
Yep. Now this was, I think, 6 votes.
Okay. I mean,
Does that work? Is that math check out?
5 is probably the number. 3 and 2.
That might be it then.
That might be what they did. Now I have to tell you something, and I knew this would come up.
Oh man.
One of those yes votes is my fiance, and she thought you were asking whether or not you like the podcast itself.
Hey, I'll take it. I take it. I approve of that.
She said, but she did say that she also enjoyed the movie. But she was like, I was talking to her. I was like, wait, you like The Last Jedi? She goes, what are you talking about? I was like, that's what the poll was. You ruined my numbers.
That's fantastic.
No,
that would have been really funny if it was just 1 to everybody else. Just me, everybody else.
Well, when she told me it was like 1 to 3 or 4, whatever the number was. So it was like 25% of people liked it, 75% hated it. And I was like, that's hilarious. You're the one person that likes it.
I'm gonna need some help from people out there. If you're listening to this, share it with other people, just so that I can get a little bit more chance of having help on my side of a poll that we put out there. Because as Jeremiah and I bring up things throughout the life of this podcast of things that we disagree on, I'm gonna need more people to side with me, and that's only gonna happen if we get more people listening to the podcast. But honestly, even if they don't, this is really fun.
Really quick, and I'm gonna throw this out there for next week.
Do it. I think we're about that time.
We are about that time, but I'm just gonna let you think about this one. We'll see how it goes. If in a 6-foot like pool of water, like say like Olympic sized pool, 6 foot deep.
Okay, 6 foot deep, not 6 foot wide.
No, 6 foot deep, like body of water.
Okay.
Who would win in a fight? A polar bear or a great white shark?
It's only a 6 foot pool?
No, it's like 6 foot deep.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
okay.
the pool's big enough, you know. It's
Right,
as
like
big
a
as
pool.
it. Yeah, as big as it needs to. We say Olympic size, you know, so it's nice and big.
Where did this come from?
That's not important right now. But you think about that. I don't want to say anything right now. with listeners. Maybe we can take a poll on this. Who would win?
Poll.
And then
Sure.
you and I can discuss this on the next week podcast of
sure. That
who
sounds
would
good.
win in a battle, a polar bear or a great white shark, 6 foot deep body of water.
That works for me.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, this has been level 5. Remember those 2 things. Number 1, you are loved.
And number 2, you might die tonight.